We are live and recording. And awesome. It's Benny Fergusson here, and I am with another bearded man. I must be in the vortex of bearded men. This gentleman's name is Alex Powerlett. And today this is the next installment in my conversations series, Mind Body Conversations. And I'm getting people that I really respect, that are respectful, that are humble and authentic practitioners in the health field. And obviously we're contextualizing this in the terms of looking at the body, looking at the mind, and returning it back to its natural form, into the natural powerful state that I believe that humans are intended to be in. So there's probably no better person that I could be talking with right now about that topic. I'll hand over to Alex. He is a very talented acupuncturist, and I'll pass over to Alex, and maybe you can just tell everyone a little bit about you, and we'll get into today's conversation, which is all about flow. We set just one word theme and we riff around it, and some really powerful stuff hopefully comes out for you. Over to you, Alex.
Sure, thanks, Benny. So for myself, I came into the practice of Eastern martial arts, and after that, Chinese medicine. I've been practicing martial arts religiously for about 10 years now. And through that, I found myself a mentor, a master, and then through him, I found Chinese medicine, and it's helped both my family and myself and my friends ever since then. And I guess probably like Benny said with the word flow, the best and most natural way for you to keep your body moving and to stay healthy, no matter what sort of sickness you have, is to just get your body moving every day, whether it's, a light walk or, like me from the martial arts, if you like Tai Chi or Qigong, breathing practice, anything to get your body moving helps to circulate the Qi in your body. So that's in a nutshell what I like to do.
Beautiful. And very humble way of putting it too. And I'll just point out, I just would like you to maybe mention to everyone what your tell me a little bit about the martial art that you practice, and at the moment at least, and I think everyone would be very interested into your teacher's name as well. if he's okay to divulge it.
Yeah. So my master, his name is Bruce Lea, and he is originally from England, where he learnt from a Chinese man from the south of China. And our style is called Heiban Wing Chun. So it's not it's not the famous style of Wing Chun that a lot of people study, the Hong Kong style or the Ip Man style. This style comes from the Chinese opera, from the junk boats, from the secret societies that used to incite a little bit of rebellion here and there. And he's been learning that for 20 to 30 years at least, and then before that, every other martial art under the sun as well. Very knowledgeable man. And so what was that?
I was just saying, I've met him the once, and I can vouch for that. And when I first met him, I just know him as Bruce Lea, and
he would like that.
I bet he would.
So the way we practice, it's not a yang style of martial art. It's not about punching holes through concrete or walls or snapping trees in half. It's about learning to be sensitive, both to external forces that are connecting with you, but also to what's going on inside you. You need to know what's happening within yourself before you can figure out anything close to what is going on in the outside world. And that's, I think, probably the biggest clue or idea that I've picked up in my years of study with him, is that you must know yourself above all else. And without that, you're not going to get very far.
It's one of my favorite sayings that I carry through life. Know thyself.
Yes, definitely.
So maybe to contextualize that, and it's very beautiful martial art from what I've observed, and it's quite unique. It's hard for me to fully describe it, so I might get you to describe it a little bit. But I'd be really interested, when you first began the path of martial arts and moving in those martial forms, what sort of things did you discover about yourself in the process, and what might a typical journey be like for some people?
Sure. Well, I remember when I first started martial arts in general, I started with a Shaolin Mantis Kung Fu.
Yes.
And like I started and I loved it, and it was really good. I started, I think, when I was 8. Did it for a few years, and then sort of I got bored with the fitness circuit that they. I don't know if people still do it now, because I learned traditionally now at my master's house. But I don't know what they do at clubs now, if they still do, fitness circuits, and, you pick up weights and lift them out to your sides for half a minute, and then you run over to the skipping rope and all that sort of thing. But I find with those sort of circuit exercises, I get bored very quickly. When I found Master Bruce, I learned, I think, what traditional martial arts should be, and how it should make you think, and how it should try and make you flow. And again, like, there's that key word to do with this flow. Like, I remember I started off very blocky and very tense, and I couldn't even breathe properly. I remember all my breath was stuck in my upper chest. And as I practiced more and more, and a big part of the practice as well is meditation. We meditate for at least half an hour to an hour at the start of every training session. And then from then on, we train for about 5 to 6 hours, just going through certain movement patterns to do with the martial art. And over time, especially at the start, I had pain in everywhere. I had pain in every part of my body at one time or another. Yeah, everything just hurt. And as sort of the practice went on, and I trained more and more, and just practiced myself at home, and that's a big thing. You must do your own practice with whatever it is, instead of going to a class going, okay, that's good, and leaving it for a week. That doesn't seem to work very well for anyone. But this pain, as you work through it and you start to realize what it is, you start to let it go. And again, like with the flow of things, that is such a good way to learn. And then as I moved through that, I felt, oh, what's this? I can actually breathe into the middle of my thorax now. That's nice. And I'm sweating less, and I don't need to guzzle 3 or 4 liters of water every hour. What's happening to me? Am I okay? Am I sick? But I actually found I was getting less sick. And it's probably been about 6 years now since I've had anything close to a cold or a flu. And I put that entirely down to my martial practice and to my meditation. That flow that keeps your internal organs and your chi moving is, I think, essential to any practice.
And there's some, if you just watched all of that, I highly recommend you just play that back and just let it wash over you, because there's a lot of really good stuff that you just shared there, Alex. And I wouldn't just discount it on just the words alone. So there's probably a tip. Take that in and watch that again. But the things that I really take out of that are, one of those things of really coming back to the traditional ways of practicing, which isn't as hard and fast and, glitz and glamour. It like a fine wine, it develops over time. It's, and like you're saying, 5 or 6 hour practice sessions, and not that necessarily everyone has to go about that, but taking the time to really immerse in just the simple things and let them sink in, like the breathing as you move, you know, like, and I've watched you practice, you know, on a couple of occasions, just in an observing way, and just watching you pay attention to that one movement, you know, that one movement of the hip and all of that sort of stuff, and linking them as forms and going through that process of getting it wrong, or then getting a little glimmer. And those things, when you spend the time with it, they're the things that you carry through within your heart, and you carry through in your whole life. It's not just something that just kind of just sort of slingshots through you, and you get it and you drop it, and you don't practice when you're at home, and it's very flippant. And so I think that's a really good essence that is missing a lot these days. Everything's very fast, and often, you know, it's like the race of the tortoise and the hare. We know how that worked out, and life's a long game if you're fortunate enough to, you know, be walking a longer path. So I think that's a really good point so far. So you brought up the concept of qi, and I'm very interested to ask you your perspective about this, because the word gets used a lot. It gets interchanged with the term energy. There's a lot of different interpretations of it, and of course, no one interpretation is gospel. But I'm really interested in your perspective of qi and your experiences of it, maybe both from your experiences in your martial arts practices, and also from a Chinese medicine acupuncturist perspective as well.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll start with like just a really brief explanation of what qi is, and what it is to me, and the way I explain it both to patients and to students is that everything, qi is matter. So you're both made of qi and you have it flowing through you. And generally what it is, like it's warmth, it's movement. It's almost like in your body, if you have a number of rivers flowing through it, then the qi is the water. The qi is what brings life to the river and to the banks around it, and, you know, feeds the plants and the trees and the animals that that live on the banks. And if there's a blockage in one of these rivers, then you're more likely than not to get sick. And so what you want to do is keep it moving, and to keep your qi moving, you must keep your body moving. So if you've ever got a kink or an ache, better than to lie down and I guess nurse the ache or the pain, you're much better off moving it. Like, you know, unless you've just put your hand into a chainsaw or something like that, then don't move it. Go to the doctor. Ow. So
Alex, move it.
It's bleeding. So if it is an ache or a pain, especially with cramps and bruises, definitely with like a big dark bruise, the sooner you can get back to a normal movement pattern around that injury, the sooner it's going to dissipate and you're going to feel much, much better. And it's the same thing with colds and flu, and most other pain, migraine, headache, stomach flux, anything you can think of. The sooner you can get your body moving its normal patterns, the better off you'll be for it. So your main aim is to keep these rivers that flow through you, or meridians or channels, or your veins, if you like, to keep them clear, keep them flowing. And by doing that, you just need to move your body and your mind. Never forget that.
Yeah, I think that's, move your mind as well, because we can get stuck in whirlpools, you know, perpetual cycles of thought, which then cause stagnation in the body.
That's right.
And then they become, you know, I often talk about the habitual patterns of thought and movement in the body, which can cause a lot of that blockage and stagnation. Is there anything that you'd like to share with that sort of thought in mind?
Yeah. Well, there's a saying in the oldest Chinese medicine texts, and what it is that all disease begins in the Shen, and the Shen in Chinese medicine is the mind. So whatever it is, whether it's a knee pain or a headache or even possibly a cancer, it's said that any disease starts in your mind. Like whether it be these stagnant thought patterns, or whether it's trauma that you keep revisiting, or if it's just something that you can't get out of your head that is making you unwell, that's generally what causes the stagnation to begin with. If you can keep your mind clear, then everything else should be pretty tickety-boo.
Which that makes a lot of sense as to why a meditative practice would happen before your martial arts practice. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's something that, I find in the practices that I teach as well, is coming to a place of stillness before we begin moving. So we don't magnify those thought patterns. It's kind of, when I teach standing meditative practices, it's the way I see that is just a very simple form that all movement can be magnified from. And if there's an imbalance in thought, or a way that we're moving in standing that's taking the body out of flow, so to speak, then that will be magnified when you go for a walk. It will be magnified when you throw a punch. It will be magnified when you do a chin-up. It will be magnified when you do anything. So
that's right.
Maybe I'm just interested because, so the word flow, it's almost loaded in the fitness industry. These days, does it mean like crawling around like a monkey? Does it mean all these like complex locomotive patterns? Does it mean, what does it mean? And it can mean so many different things, but I'd just be really interested in your perspective on flow, both from movements, martial arts and just your daily life, to maybe the inner workings of flow in the body.
I think to me what flow is, or what it means to me, is that no matter who you are or what it is you're practicing, it's up to you to break it down and then put it back together so that it suits you. I think a lot of people get stuck in the thought that they must be like another person, or like this celebrity who has a perfect body, or that fighter who fights so well. Or that strength coach that coaches the best, weightlifters or the best runners in the world. Probably one of the first barriers to break down is just the fact that you don't need to be like someone else. You don't need to move like them. Sure, you can do the same technique, but it must suit you. But everyone is completely different.
So the first principle is to find your own flow.
Yeah, exactly right. That's something again that my master always says to me. Like you must link everything together because everything is the same. It's all one, and you must always break down to us, it's every technique, every form. Pull it apart inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, and then observe it from every angle and then put it back together so that it does suit us. And that's how we obtain our flow. In martial arts, it's flow versus, blockiness or tension. If you can flow, it's like a river versus a rock. You can put a rock in the middle of the river and the river still flows perfectly around it. It's no problem. And it can be the same with an opponent. If someone is big and heavy and strong and you can be big and strong as well, but you can flow around and you'll be the winner in that confrontation. What was that?
You'll be the river.
Exactly. You be the river. Flow around them. It's a really good way to be. It's a good way not to get hurt. And it's a good way to stay very healthy. And then with flow and Chinese medicine, again, very similar. If you can find, or not necessarily Chinese medicine, but health in general, if you can find a way to keep your flow going every day, to keep your mind clear and the chi or the water in your body clear as it flows, you're not going to come up against many obstacles because you can just move around them. It's a very good way to be, I think.
Yeah. So it reminds me of, and we were talking before about just the principle of unlearning versus learning, the idea of clearing rather than gathering, within the body. And, I kind of sometimes refer to the body as the master plumbing network. It's like when you really look at it, it's just a network of tubes, your veins and arteries and like your skin, all the follicles, your hair, your bone.
Wow.
Like every single thing, it's just a network of tubes. So we want to create enough space and as little resistance as possible for all of that wonderful stuff, chi and blood and all of that good stuff to just keep moving and flowing through your body. And I've found, with my students, and I'm sure you do as well, is anytime problems happen, it's an obstruction to that flow going through the body. And breath is a big flow, all of that sort of stuff. And
the biggest.
The biggest, yeah.
Yes.
So outside of, so excellent, cool. I really like what you said there about just understanding all of the happenings around, a given movement, a transition between movements. So then there's no gap, there's no blockage. They're just seamlessly linked. And I think that's a really important distinction rather than these days what I see maybe in modern fitness practices is we get like a string of movements. It's like, here's one movement, here's another movement, here's another movement. And then I just put them together, and like the mind's like going, I don't know, go to this one and go to this one. And to me, when I see that, maybe they're stringing 3 movements together, but the movement in itself is far from flowing.
Yes.
And, I think that's a really good point, that it doesn't matter whether you're doing one movement or 100 movements linked together, find the flow in the one, really understand it for your unique body.
That's right.
And then when you understand all those individual things, put them together. So then it happens, without gaps, without breaks. And in martial arts, that's where a form comes. And is there anything you'd like to add to that?
To do with form and flow, like you're saying, it's all about achieving that harmony of both your mind and your body. And that's a really cliche saying, but it's so true.
It is.
Like that gap between a lot of people's mind and body is the same as the gaps between movement. It's what causes you to physically stutter. If you can connect those so well that you can jump from one thing to the next, whether it is, literally a jump and then dropping into, say, a forward roll, those things should be connected so well that you flow through them, that they become fluid. And I'm going to try not to say flow too many more times because this interview will be full of them. But it's such an intrinsic part of what we could be and what we should be as a species and as practitioners of movement or martial arts or acrobatics or just as humans. And I think a lot of people lose it, and that's why you see people with these really sore hips, sore backs, sore necks, they're all because they're no longer flowing, their body isn't moving as one. There's all these gaps and blockages in the way it moves, which is why your neck gets sore, because there's something missing in between, say, your hip and your thoracic spine. So your neck gets sore. It's amazing the way it works. Just think if everyone could get themselves moving every morning for 5 or 10 minutes or for 3 hours, it doesn't matter. As long as they do it, they're going to see a massive benefit.
Excellent. That's very powerful. So really bringing the beginning the day with, getting the body moving. That really brings me on. Before we were talking about, and I can't really not get you to talk about this. It was very fascinating and interesting for me, and I reckon really interesting for those who are watching now. About talking about different organ systems and the way they work at different times of the day. And so looking at the context of flow with organ systems and times and all of that sort of thing. And I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So in Chinese medicine, we have what's called the Horary clock. And this clock basically, the Horary, Horary.
Horary clock.
Horary clock, that's right. Yeah. And what this clock does, it measures out the hours that each of your organ systems are most active or have the most chi flowing through them at this time. For instance, on the Horary clock, the first organ time is for the lung, and that's from 3 to 5 a.m. After that is a large intestine, which again in Chinese medicine is intrinsically linked to the lung. They're a pair, and that's from 5 to 7. Your spleen is from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. The heart is from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The small intestine is from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The bladder, your urinary bladder, is from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Your kidney is from 5 p.m. to 7. The pericardium, which is known as the heart protector, it's a thin membrane that covers your heart physically, is from 7 to 9. The sanjiao, which is a Chinese medicine organ which encompasses the 3 main areas of your body,
sometimes
is from 9.
Right?
Say again?
Sometimes called the triple burner, yeah?
The triple burner, that's right. And that is from 9 to 11. Then there's the gallbladder, which is 11 to 1. And finally, the liver, which is 1 till 3, and it cycles back into the lung. So with these organs and their Horary times, if you exercise at different times of the day, you're going to impact each of these organs in a different way. Say, if you exercise during the lung time, which is 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., you're going to make your lungs stronger because there is more chi in them. And obviously you use breathing in every part of life, plus especially in your movement practice. A lot of exercises and movements, they all begin with the lungs. Everyone always takes a breath or they let a breath go as they begin to move. And if you practice, especially breathing practices at this time of the day, you're greatly going to increase the power, the chi, the movement, the flow of the lungs, and all the systems that they affect from there. In Chinese medicine, if you can make your lungs strong, you will not get sick, as in you won't catch a cold. You won't end up with any breathing issues, fevers. They help to protect your body. And then from there, like say if we jump to a different time, let's go backwards. 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., which is the time of the liver. Your liver and your gallbladder, they're connected and they're both in charge of movement and being able to step forward through life. And if either of these stagnates, then you're going to get a lot of pain in your body because they are what helps to move your chi, to move your blood. And if you can exercise at that time of the morning, it's good. It's also a very good time to have a really good sleep. If you can get to sleep at the start of the gallbladder time, which is 11 p.m, and sleep till just after 3 a.m. when the liver time ends, you actually find that your blood is nourished because it has somewhere to go. And that's something that the liver does. It houses the blood in the small hours of the morning, and it fills it full of nutrients and it cleanses it, and therefore cleanses your body because that's what your blood does. It moves through your body all day. It needs that time to replenish it. Yeah, those were just a couple of the things. I could go on and on about
Yeah.
just one. It's quite amazing.
That's really, really powerful, and it brings up so many important things. You know, the importance of movement throughout the day, and you know, understanding correct intensity for you and dosage and all sorts of wonderful things. And you know, because there's movement, and obviously all movement will be a reflection of the mind and its state, and but also. And then, you know, say we're moving throughout the day, then we're going to really earn good quality rest, fully relax,
Right.
and nourish those organ systems that you're talking about. And so it all falls into place. You know, I suppose one of the wonderful proponents of Chinese medicine is the principle of yin and yang, which flows into every single thing that we could conceptualize about the body.
Exactly right.
And it's just so beautifully simple. And okay, wonderful. Well, I reckon we've covered some really awesome topics there. And,
Definitely.
yeah, I reckon if you're watching this video and you're not over at the Movement Monk site, come on over. That's where all the good stuff is. I'll post some good excerpts, just outlining, you know, some of the key points that we covered in this conversation. And maybe just before we go, if you just want to show a brief, I'll see if I can get an image of this from you. That chart that you had of the organ systems and their times. Do you have that?
The Horary clock? Sure, I've got it here. Here it is.
Something I prepared earlier.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. And I'll see if I can get I'll get that, and I'll pop it near the video as well on the page that I put it on, so people can see that, because it's really interesting. And anyway, over and out. It's another wonderful conversation for today. I hope it's helped you on your journey towards reclaiming the more natural form of your human body, and starting to really explore the robustness that you can have, rather than necessarily having to go through all the uncomfortable stuff that a lot of people deal with their whole life. So there is a way, there's a better way that you might be experiencing than you might be experiencing today. So till next time, be well.
Thank you, Benny.
Thanks, Alex.